like to introduce Michael from Havas.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Michael from Havas, and today, in just 10 minutes, I'm going to raise your data IQ. Well, we'll see about that. But it is not unquestionable that raising a data IQ for an organization at this point is not an option. And data IQ defined in a way where it is something around interpreting data and making that data really actionable. So I'll talk about data IQ in maybe three ways. One is the marketplace is highly dynamic and requires that acumen to be able to process and interpret data. Two is in order to raise your organization's data IQ, you're going to need to invest in talent. And three, if you do invest in that talent, the results can be transformational, right? So let's dive in. Dynamic landscape. We know the landscape is dynamic and it does require this data IQ to process information, right? Reality number one, the complexity in the marketplace continues to evolve. The way a brand can connect with a consumer is almost infinite. I included maybe, 9 Lumascapes there, but it is exponential. And the only way to get to the answer is by processing data, i.e. raise your data IQ. Reality number two, some organizations solve this through planning, but we know that increase in planning does not reduce your risk. In fact, it can actually increase the error within the way that you process and interpret data. However, maybe dynamic testing or some sort of prototyping can improve this in a market setting. Reality number three, moving away from data collection, I have all of this data collected, to data integration. Simply from API to AI to recommendation, this is where the market is going. Reality number four, don't tell me what happened. Don't build me a dashboard. Tell me what will happen if I invest an incremental investment in a particular channel. What will happen? Moving from historical to simulation. And reality number five, everything is about ROI. Even though there are brands that are focusing on brand equity, but at the end of the day, brands survive by revenue. So we should focus on ROI. Brand metrics are great from an operational sense, but everything should be focused on ROI. Many other realities exist. I only shared 5. But one key insight, as organizations, we are not set up for success, right? As organizations here on the left, we spend or invest maybe 10 to 20% of our resources and budget in things like data science. But the market reality, and we just saw 5 examples, is that the market reality requires us to continue to invest in data science. How much should I invest in a digital strategy? What are the consumer insights and what is the scale of that audience in a particular market? These are data questions. Organizations that balance the ratio between investment and data science to meet the market needs are the organizations that are successful. But the answer to that, as I mentioned, is around data talent. So let's talk about that. How do we calibrate our talent? Well, I'm not going to give you all the answers, but certainly I'll share some ideas. 2 ways, right? Well, and it's pretty simple. You upgrade your existing staff to be more data savvy, or you recruit new data science teams or new data scientists into your practice. So let's talk about that. Making your marketing leaders also your data leaders. How do we do this? Forcing them to focus less on planning but more on prototyping. Focusing their efforts not on data collection or information collection, but on integration, dynamic integration. Focusing them on thinking about simulation and if-then scenarios, focusing on ROI, and making sure that they make decisions with data. But how do we recruit new audiences or new data scientists into our portfolio or into our brands or even into our agencies? Well, that itself should be a science. Let's take a note from Silicon Valley. Let the algorithms actually determine which people are best fit for your organization. Creativity, yes, you want somebody that's creative, but creativity itself can be managed. Focus on a data budget. How do you validate that your data practice is actually valuable? Create a P&L and make sure that the advertisers and brands can actually buy your product on a standalone basis. Create a data think tank. We send our data scientists to hackathons here, which is great, but you have that practice in-house. So why not create data hackathons in-house to stimulate that sort of thinking and define an executive track? We'll talk more about that. So now you have a data talent that's inside your organization. What is it doing? It is transformational, right? Your data talent is the answer to raising your data IQ, and it is not very difficult. We, in fact, as a practice, have deployed a discipline where we help organizations migrate from a very foundational state, where they're focusing on basic reporting and analytics, to a more leadership state. And again, all it requires is commitment and investment to move up that maturity curve. Now, beyond just talent, we said invest in an executive track. Just 5 years ago, these sort of titles and positions did not exist in organizations. Chief Analytics Officer, Chief Insights Officer, but not just as, let's say, figureheads, but actual teams that have discipline, tools, and budgets behind them, so people are excited to join, and actually these people sit at the table and make decisions. Again, organizations that invest in this sort of infrastructure are successful in the long term. We've learned this, and this is how we educate a lot of our clients. So now if you do have this data IQ that's now increased and raised and powerful within your organization, you can interpret data, you can actually action data, what can you do? So a few things. Moving away from things like audience definition, let's define our audience, to audience recognition, right? Which audience engages with the brand. Moving away, obviously, from univariate decisions to multivariate, AI and whatnot. Moving away from panel measurement to measuring everything because it is possible and we should. Moving away from FTE models to agency as a service. The agencies are losing their clout around being the agency of record, but in fact, advertisers need bespoke sort of products and services, so why not productize your data, and why not productize your data services as a service itself? And then finally, moving away from marketing silos. We just recently spoke about IT and marketing not playing together, creating this function when marketing joins data and becomes this notion of a data engineer. So again, what is the payoff? So we know in the US, brands are spending about $10 billion in data services and about $34 billion in marketing technology. And again, a lot of it is going to Adobe and a lot of it is going to Nielsen and Comscore. So how can brands save that by taking some of the stuff in-house? And how can agencies take a piece of the pie? So just 4 ideas, but of course there's a lot more involved. Ensure your marketing leaders are also your data leaders. Ensure that you invest in your data IQ. Be ready for the transformation because you need to invest. And finally, define that executive data track, right? It is super important to have a stakeholder that is focused on data and innovation. So with that, thank you. Hopefully your IQ has been raised in the last 10 minutes.
Thank you, Michael.